In the world of combat sports, we often hear about the bone-crushing power of heavyweight boxers or the ruthless efficiency of MMA fighters. But there's another breed of athlete that strikes fear into the hearts of their opponents: rugby players. Imagine the raw power of a boxer, the versatility of an MMA fighter, and the endurance of a marathon runner, all wrapped up in one package. That's what we're dealing with today. At Rugby Sphere, we are counting down the top 10 most feared rugby players in history. You are going to want to stick around as the top 3 players will shock you. At number 10 is England's golden boy, Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell strikes fear into opponents not through sheer size or brute force, but through his ice-cold precision and unwavering mental toughness. As England's fly half and occasional centre, Farrell is the puppet master of the backline, orchestrating plays with laser-like accuracy. What makes Farrell truly terrifying is his ability to perform under pressure. When the game is on the line, he becomes a different beast. His goal-kicking accuracy is legendary, capable of slotting penalties and conversions from virtually anywhere on the field. Opponents know that any infringement within 50 metres of their own posts is likely to result in points for Farrell's team. Number 9. Retired England captain Martin Johnson. Martin Johnson wasn't just a player, he was an immovable object, a human mountain that stood at the heart of England's pack. As England's captain during their most successful period, Johnson led not with rousing speeches, but with a silent intensity that was far more terrifying than any words could be. Johnson's physical presence on the field was intimidating enough. Standing at 6 feet 7 inches and weighing 260 pounds, he was a colossus of the game. But it was his unwavering focus and fierce determination that truly struck fear into opponents. Before a game had even begun, Johnson's steely gaze across the field was enough to make grown men question their life choices. His leadership style was one of quiet authority. Johnson didn't need to shout or make grand gestures. His mere presence was enough to elevate the performance of those around him and instill doubt in the opposition. Johnson seemed to have an innate understanding of the game, always being in the right place at the right time. But perhaps what made Johnson truly feared was his absolute refusal to take a backward step. Whether it was standing up to the haka or facing down opponents in the heat of battle, Johnson never showed a hint of intimidation. This unyielding attitude permeated through his team and made England a force to be reckoned with during his tenure. Number 8. Bakkies Botha, the bogeyman of rugby. A figure that haunted the nightmares of players around the world, it would undoubtedly be Bakkies Botha. This South African lock brought a level of intensity to the game that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying in equal measure. Botha didn't just play rugby, he waged war on the field. His bone-crushing tackles were the stuff of legend, delivered with a ferocity that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Opponents quickly learned that if Botha had you in his sights, you were in for a world of pain. What made Botha particularly feared was his uncompromising attitude. He approached every game, every tackle, every ruck as if it were his last. His presence in the scrum was like adding a wrecking ball to a demolition crew. He didn't just compete, he destroyed. Off the field, Botha's reputation preceded him. Stories of his training intensity and his no-nonsense approach to the game added to his mythical status. Players would psych themselves up just to face him, knowing that a moment's lapse in concentration could result in a bone-jarring hit. At number 7 is the French international Sébastien Chabal. Nicknamed the Caveman, Sébastien Chabal looked like he had just stepped out of a time machine from the Ice Age, and he played with the ferocity to match. With his wild, unkempt hair and beard, combined with his muscular 6'3", 250-pound frame, Chabal was a terrifying sight on the rugby field. But Chabal was far more than just an intimidating appearance. His playing style was characterized by brutal efficiency and raw power. He didn't just tackle opponents, he hunted them down with predatory instinct. When Chabal hit, he hit with every ounce of his considerable frame, leaving a trail of shell-shocked opponents in his wake. What made Chabal particularly feared was his versatility. Capable of playing in the second row or as a back row forward, he brought his unique brand of controlled chaos to whatever position he occupied. Off the field, Chabal's larger-than-life personality and distinctive look made him a cult figure in the rugby world. But make no mistake, behind the marketable image was a player of considerable skill and ferocious determination. Opponents knew that facing Chabal meant being in for a long, painful day at the office. Next, at number 6, is the infamous Kiwi Jerry Collins. Jerry Collins played the game of rugby with an almost supernatural intensity. This All Blacks flanker seemed to possess the ability to be everywhere on the field at once, a whirlwind of destruction in a black jersey. Collins' style of play was characterised by bone-crunching tackles and fearless runs into the heart of the opposition. He hit so hard and so often that players would rather pass the ball than face him head-on. The sight of Collins lining up a tackle was enough to make even the bravest players think twice about their career choices. What made Collins particularly feared was his relentless work rate. He never seemed to tire, maintaining the same ferocious intensity from the first minute to the last. This stamina, combined with his physical prowess, made him a nightmare for opponents to deal with throughout the entire game. Tragically, Collins' life was cut short in a car accident in 2015, leaving the rugby world mourning the loss of a true warrior. His legacy lives on, however, in the memories of bone-rattling tackles and inspirational performances that defined his career. Making it into the top 5, Jonny Wilkinson. Fear in rugby doesn't always come from physical intimidation. Sometimes it's the psychological pressure that a player can exert that makes them truly terrifying. Jonny Wilkinson exemplified this type of fear. While Wilkinson might not have been the biggest or most aggressive player on the field, his precision with the boot struck fear into the hearts of every team facing England. His ability to score points from anywhere on the field made him a constant threat, forcing opponents to play a different game altogether. Wilkinson's kicking accuracy was legendary. Whether it was conversions, penalties, or drop goals, he could split the uprights with unerring consistency. This meant that any infringement within 50 metres of the posts was likely to result in points for England. Opposing teams found themselves walking on eggshells, knowing that even the slightest mistake could be punished. But Wilkinson's fear factor went beyond his kicking. His defensive work was equally impressive. Despite playing fly half, traditionally not a position known for defensive prowess, Wilkinson tackled with the ferocity of a forward. Perhaps what made Wilkinson most feared was his mental fortitude. He seemed impervious to pressure, maintaining his composure even in the most high-stakes situations. This was never more evident than in the 2003 World Cup final, where his drop goal in extra time clinched the trophy for England. Number 4, Brian Lima. Known as the chiropractor, due to his bone-adjusting tackles, Brian Lima was the human equivalent of a heat-seeking missile on the rugby field. This Samoan player redefined what it meant to hit hard in rugby, leaving a trail of rattled opponents in his wake. Lima's tackling technique was a thing of brutal beauty. He had an uncanny ability to time his hits perfectly, catching ball carriers at their most vulnerable moments. The impact of his tackles was so severe that players would often be left gasping for air, if not worse. What made Lima particularly feared was his longevity and consistency. He played in 5 consecutive Rugby World Cups from 1991 to 2007, earning the nickname the Terminator for his seemingly ageless ability to deliver punishing hits. But Lima wasn't just about defense. He was a skilled attacker as well, with pace and power that made him a threat with the ball in hand. This combination of offensive capability and defensive ferocity made him a complete player that teams always had to account for. Into the top 3, Wayne Shelford. Wayne "Buck" Shelford's toughness is the stuff of rugby legend, setting a new standard for what it meant to be tough in a sport already known for its physicality. His most famous moment came in a match against France in 1986, known as the Battle of Nantes. During this game, Shelford suffered a torn scrotum, an injury that would send most men into early retirement. Instead, Shelford had it stitched up on the sideline and returned to the game. As if that wasn't enough, he also lost 4 teeth and was knocked unconscious during the same match. This incident crystallized Shelford's reputation as one of the toughest and most feared players in rugby history. But Shelford's fear factor went beyond his ability to endure pain. As the All Blacks' number 8 and captain, he was a formidable presence on the field. His physicality in the scrum and open play was unmatched, and he had a knack for making crucial plays at critical moments. Shelford was also credited with revitalizing the haka, the traditional Maori war dance performed by the All Blacks before matches. Under his leadership, the haka went from a sometimes half-hearted ritual to a spine-tingling challenge that set the tone for the All Blacks' intimidating presence. Getting the number 2 spot is the All Black Richie McCaw. McCaw's fear factor came not from bone-crunching hits or intimidating physical presence, but from his relentless efficiency and seemingly supernatural ability to bend the game to his will. This All Blacks flanker appeared to have an almost psychic understanding of the game, always being exactly where he needed to be. McCaw's ability to disrupt play and turn over possession made him the bane of every opposing team. He had an uncanny knack for appearing at the breakdown, either securing quick ball for his team or slowing down the opposition's attack. His technique at the ruck was so effective and so close to the line of legality that the phrase "McCawing" entered the rugby lexicon to describe his style of play. What made McCaw particularly feared was his intelligence and adaptability. He seemed to have an innate understanding of what the referee would allow, pushing the boundaries of the laws without crossing them. This forced opponents to adapt their game plans and often led to frustration and mistakes. McCaw's leadership was another key aspect of his intimidating presence. As captain of the All Blacks, he led by example, setting the standard for work rate and commitment. His calm demeanour under pressure inspired his teammates and unsettled opponents. At number 1, Jonah Lomu. We return to Jonah Lomu at the top of our list because no player in the history of rugby has instilled as much fear as this giant of the game. Lomu wasn't just a player, he was a phenomenon that redefined what was possible on a rugby field. Lomu's combination of size, speed and skill was unprecedented and remains unmatched. At 6 feet 5 inches and 262 pounds, he had the size of a forward but the speed of a winger, capable of running 100 meters in 10.8 seconds. This combination allowed him to simply run through defenders as if they weren't there. His performance in the 1995 World Cup, particularly the semi-final against England, remains one of the most dominant displays in rugby history. Lomu scored 4 tries in that match, famously running over England fullback Mike Catt in a moment that has been replayed countless times. Lomu's impact extended beyond his on-field performances. He became rugby's first global superstar, transcending the sport and bringing it to new audiences worldwide. His presence was so dominant that teams had to completely rethink their defensive strategies just to try to contain him. Even after being diagnosed with a serious kidney disorder, Lomu continued to be a force on the field, a testament to his incredible natural ability and determination. His untimely death in 2015 was mourned across the rugby world, a recognition of the impact he had on the sport. Jonah Lomu remains the ultimate feared player in rugby history. He was a player who could change the course of a game with a single run, an athlete who pushed the boundaries of what we thought was possible in the sport, and a legend whose impact on rugby will be felt for generations to come. These 10 players reshaped the game of rugby, leaving an indelible mark on the sport and in the minds of their opponents. But here's a thought to keep you up at night. Who's the next player that will join this list of legends? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated on our latest content. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover? Drop them in the comments below. Until next time.